Sneha Nagarkar ji. Sneha Nagarkar ji is going to talk about Yamuna Mahatmya and Vaisnava Kumbha of Vṛndāvana. Sneha Nagarkar ji is one of the researchers on Indica. She worked for our magazine also. She is currently with the Bombay University. She is a wonderful young academician and researcher. She is the visiting faculty of the Department of Archaeology and Centre for Hindu Studies at University of Mumbai currently. She has done a great amount of research on various variegated topics and presented papers in multiple conferences of Indica. Today, actually, we wanted to cover Mahatmyas of rivers, and she is covering Yamuna Mahatmya, and also she is connecting it with a particular event of Kumbha Mela at Vrindavan.
Namo Namaha. Thank you so much, sir. Without any further delay, I will start with my presentation. The title of my presentation is The Yamuna Mahatmya and the Vaishnava Kumbha at Vṛndāvana. The river Yamuna needs no introduction, but I'll just give a very brief introduction of her physical form. As we are all aware, she originates in the Yamunotri Glacier in the Himalayas in the Tehri Garhwal region in Uttarakhand. Yamunotri, the place where she originates, is one of the Char Dhams. The total length of the Yamuna from Yamunotri to Prayagaraja is 1376 kilometers, and her catchment area, as we can see, is around 360,000 square kilometers. The Yamuna is the most important tributary of the Ganga, and she meets the Ganga at Prayagaraja, where we have the Sangama of the Yamuna and Ganga, and it is also believed that the Saraswati meets these two rivers there. Now, the Yamuna is also called Kalindi as her source. The Yamunotri is very close to the Kalinda mountain, and the stream of the Yamuna cascades down from the Kalinda mountain. This is a picture of Yamunotri. She is worshipped as a goddess even at Yamunotri. People make all kinds of offerings to her. So Yamuna Pujana is performed in a very elaborate way at Yamunotri also. This is a map showing the movement of the Yamuna, and here we can see that at Prayagraj she has her confluence with Ganga, and sites like Delhi, Agra, and Mathura between Delhi and Agra, Bateshwar, then Kaushambi. These are some of the important historical places on the banks of the Yamuna. And if we see the Mahatmya of the Yamuna, apart from her source and apart from Prayagraj, her Mahatmya is the greatest in the Mathura or the Vraja region, and this is mainly because of her extremely intimate connection with Lord Sri Krishna, who is Vrajaraj or Vrajendra. This is a picture of the wide channel of the Yamuna at Mathura. This is taken by me from one of the ghats, one of the tirthas on the Yamuna at Mathura. Now we will take a review of the various literary references to the river. The river Yamuna finds a mention in the Rig Veda. In the 52nd Sukta of the 5th Mandala of the Rig Veda, we get a reference that the Maruts gifted numerous cows to Shavashva Atreya on the banks of the Yamuna. Then the Yamuna finds a mention in the 18th Sukta of the 7th Mandala of the Rig Veda, where it is said that a battle took place on the banks of the Yamuna between two kings, King Bheda and the well known King Sudas. In the 75th Sukta of the Dashama Mandala of the Rig Veda, the river Yamuna has been mentioned between the Ganga and the Saraswati. In fact, this particular sukta is many a times used by Indologists, used by historians to say that the movement of the Vedic people was from the east to the west, rather than what is projected that the Aryans came from the west, and they migrated first. The theory was about the invasion. Then when that was refuted, some historians came up with this wonderful, so-called wonderful theory of migration. But now many historians who have studied the Vedas in depth, who know Sanskrit well, say that if at all there was a migration, it was from the east to the west, and many a times this particular sukta is cited to support this view. Then in the Rig Veda, we get references to Yama and Yami. Now, Twashtru arranged the marriage of his daughter Sharanyu with Vivasvat or Vivaswan, or the sun. And Sharanyu was unable to bear the radiance. She was unable to bear his brilliance, and hence she went away to Kurukshetra. And Sharanyu was immortal, she was not subject to death. And the Devas took her away. And she, in the form of a mare, gave birth to two pairs of twins. First were the Ashwino, the two Ashwins, and the second pair was a boy called Yama and a girl called Yami. We have the very famous Yama Yami Samvada Sukta in the Rig Veda, in the Dashama Mandala, and the Rishika of this particular Sukta is Vaivasvati Yami, and the Rishi is Vaivasvatah Yamaha. And there is also a reference to the residence of Yama and Yami in the Vajasani Samhita as well. Then the Yamuna is mentioned as Kalindi in the Valmiki Ramayana. The numbering which I have given here is as per the critical edition of the Ramayana published by the Oriental Institute, Baroda. And sage Bharadwaja, who is called Mahamuni, describes the Yamuna or the Kalindi as a swift flowing river to Lord Rama. Similarly, she is also mentioned as Kalindi in the Mahabharata. Apart from the references in the Vedic texts and the two Itihasas, a number of Puranas have plenty of details pertaining to the Yamuna. In fact, when we talk about the Mahatmya of the Yamuna, I think a great deal of it is mentioned in our Puranas. The Puranas are a storehouse of various Mahatmyas of rivers. Like there is Ganga Mahatmya in various Puranas, and at many instances there may not be an entire Purana dedicated to Yamuna, but at many places the glory of Yamuna is spoken about by the Puranas. So it starts with the Harivansha. The Harivansha is a part of the Itihasa Mahabharata. It is the Khila Parva of the Mahabharata, and it is essentially the biography of Lord Sri Krishna. So obviously, any biography of Krishna cannot be complete without Krishna Priya Yamuna. So it has got beautiful descriptions of the Yamuna, which we will see. And apart from the Harivansha, a number of other Puranas like Markandeya, Matsya, Kurma, Vayu, Brahmanda, Varaha, Padma, Agni, and of course the Bhagavata have references to her. They glorify her in various aspects. Now, coming to the description of the Yamuna in the Harivansha, the details of her birth are given in the 8th Adhyaya of the Harivansha. This is as per the critical edition published by the Bhandarkar Oriental Research Institute. And Yami was the daughter of Vivasvat and Saudnya, and she was the younger son of Vaivasvata and Yamadharma. So Yamadharma and Yami were twins, and it was Yami who began to flow as the river Yamuna. So the Harivamsha says, Yaviyasi tayoho ya tu Yami kanya yashasvini abhavat sa sarit Yamuna loka bhavani. So she was purifying the world with her flow. That is the purport of this particular shloka. And then we come to a very detailed and beautiful description of the river. And the situation is that once when Krishna was grazing cattle, he was keeping a watch on the cows and the bulls. And he happened to come to the bank of the Yamuna, which had trees covered with creepers. Her tarangaha, her waves, were like the curvy corners of her eyes. Now, this whole description brings out the physical features as a river, and as if the river is conceptualized, is being perceived as a young damsel. And as she was flowing, a pleasant breeze was causing ruffles in her waters. She was full of lotuses and lilies. The river had numerous fords, that is, the tirthas. It had sweet water, it has various lakes, Rida, and was flowing with great speed. She was Vegavati. Then the trees on her banks were bent because of the rain and breeze, and there were various kinds of birds who were inhabiting her waters, and she was full of animals living in in her waters, and she was full with aquatic features. She was adorned with flowers growing in the waters, and her stream was covered with the green leaves of the lotuses. The flowing current was her legs, the sandy banks were her hips, the whirlpool was her navel, the lotuses were her pubic hair, the lake was her waist. So, here we can actually imagine a young damsel. And that is how we find Yamuna in the sculptures, which belong, which we find in art, Indic art from the Gupta period onwards. The three folds on her belly were the three waves. The Chakravakas were her protruding breasts. Her banks and shores were her face. Her teeth was the foam. And she had a very pleasant form. The geese who were inhabiting her flow were her laughter. And her eyes were the petals of the beautiful water lilies. And the description goes on like this. And various parts of Yamuna are compared to a human body, and she was marked with the presence of turtles. Her limbs were covered with fish and crocodiles, and she was marked with the presence of turtles. And the turtle is the Vahana, the mount of the Yamuna. Just as Makara is the Vahana of Ganga, the tortoise or the turtle is the Vahana, the Kurma is the Vahana of Yamuna. And all kinds of wild animals would come to her bank for a drink of water, and they were as if her crown. And her water has been compared to mother's milk. So people too drank milk from her breasts. That is, they used her water. Okay. And she's called the chief queen of the ocean. And Krishna saw her, and he wandered along her shores happily. And as Krishna was wandering on her shores, this made her even more beautiful. So Krishna is dark and so is Yamuna. So, the interface of these two dark colors were making the surroundings of Vṛndāvana, of Vraja, even more beautiful. Coming more to a geological aspect, which finds a reflection in the Harivamsha and other Puranas also, the Yamuna has changed her course a number of times, and paleo channels of this river, river old river beds, are found in the Vraja region, and this probably is indicated by the narrative of Balarama dragging the Yamuna with his plow, and so he made her come near him because he wanted to drink her waters, and this is mentioned in the 83rd adhyaya of the Harivamsha. And this particular narrative probably indicates the change in the course of the river Yamuna. Now, in the Markandeya Purana, Yamuna has been mentioned along with the Shatadru and the Iravati. Then the Markandeya Purana also has details about the birth of the Yamuna. Now, as per this Purana, Vishwakarma gave his daughter Saunya in marriage to Vivaswan, and Vishwakarma is the same as the Rigvedic Twashtru, and Saunya is the same as Sharanyu. And Vivaswan and Saunya had three children, Vaivasvata Manu and the twins Yama and Yami. And the river Tapati or Tapi is the stepsister of Yamuna, as she is the daughter of Vivaswan and his second wife Chaya. And it is said in this Purana that Vivaswan ordered his daughter Yami to flow from the Kalinda mountain in the form of the Yamuna river. So it more or less agrees with the version of the Hari Mansha, but there is no reference to Tapati or Tapi in this particular incident in the Hari Mansha. There is a reference to her elsewhere. Then in the Matsya Purana, Yamuna is referred to along with other major rivers like Drishadvati and Chandrabhaga at one place, and at another place, her name comes along with other major rivers like the Shatadru, Chandrabhaga, and Sharayu. Then the Devi Bhagavata Purana, which is also a very important Purana, mentions the Yamuna along with rivers like the Kaushiki and the Mandakini. Now, the Bhagavata Purana places the Yamuna between the Saraswati and the Mandakini, and the Purana counts Yamuna as one of the major rivers of Bharatavarsha. In this particular context, Sri Shukamuni, who is narrating the Bhagavata Katha to King Parikshit, states that the mere utterance of the names of these rivers makes one pure, and the people of Bharata take a bath in the waters of these very rivers. So we can understand that the utterance of these names makes one pure. So what can be said when the people of Bharata are taking a bath in these waters? They are being rendered so pure. This is what Shukamuni is saying. Now, the Bhagavata Purana also has narratives about the birth of Yama and Yami. Now, one of the most important texts which extols the greatness of the Yamuna is the medieval Garga Samhita. The text is dated to either the 16th or the 17th century CE, and according to certain scholars, it was a Pushti Margiya text. Now, according to the Garga Samhita, Yamuna resides in Goloka. What is Goloka? Goloka is the supreme abode of Bhagwan Shri Krishna and Radha ji. Shri Krishna lives in Goloka along with Radha, and in fact, Goloka is considered higher than Vaikuntha. In fact, even the Hari Vansha also refers to Goloka, but that is in the context of the Govardhana Dharana episode. but there is no reference to Radhaji there. And the Garga Samhita has a very detailed description of Goloka, and Goloka is extremely important in many of the medieval Vaishnava Sampradayas. It's- I mean, the Gaudiya Vaishnavas also give a lot of attach a lot of significance to Goloka. In fact, in Braj, when anyone passes away, many a times it is said that wo Goloka Vasi ho gaye. That is the significance. Anyway, so when Krishna was about to incarnate on earth, he requested Radhaji to accompany him. And Radhaji said that her mind will not be pleased until there are Vṛndāvana, Yamuna, and Govardhana on the earth. Yatra Vṛndāvanam nasti, na yatra Yamuna nadi, yatra Govardhano nasti, tatra name manah sukham. That is what Radhaji says. In the Vṛndāvana Khanda of the Garga Samhita, the Yamuna and Ganga mutually eulogize and glorify each other. And the Ganga hails Yamuna as Paramananda Swarupini. The Ganga says that the Yamuna has emanated from the left half of Krishna's body, and Ganga says that the Yamuna is venerable by all the lokas. She is the Patarani, the chief consort of Sri Krishna. Ganga offers her namaskaras to Yamuna and states that even the Tirthas and Devas find it difficult to attain the Yamuna, and even in Goloka, her darshana is extremely rare. And Ganga tells Yamuna that she, in the Rasa Leela in Vraja, will be a part of the Yutha of Yamuna. Yutha means a group of gopis. Now, in the Padma Purana, Narada tells Yudhishthira that life is worthless if one has not bathed in the Yamuna, and all the sins are destroyed by a bath in the waters of the Yamuna, and the sins begin to tremble once a person reaches the banks of the Yamuna. So, this is supposed to be her potency in destroying all the papas. Then Puranas like Kurma, Padma, and Agni state that Tapanasya Sutadevi Trishu Lokeshu Vishruta. Tapanasya Suta is the daughter of Tapana, that is the sun. Who is she? Yamuna, this Devi. In all the three worlds, she is well known. Then certain Puranas also declare that those who have not ever visited the Ganga and Yamuna and are thousands of yojanas far away from them, their sins, their papas are destroyed merely by chanting the names of these rivers. Then, what to say about those who venerate, who worship these rivers with full faith and perform snan and achamana with their waters? So, this is the great potency of these sacred rivers, which is enunciated in our Puranas. Then, the Kurma Purana, we have Rishi Markandeya telling Yudhishthira that the one who bathes in the Yamuna and drinks her water is freed from all papas and his seven kulas are purified. Then coming to the Mathura Mahatmya in the Varaha Purana, the river Yamuna is called the Swasa or sister of Vaivasvata, and she is glorified as Ramya or beautiful. The text makes a reference to the Yamuna's confluence with the Ganga at Prayaga, and Varaha, the Mathura Mahatmya unfolds as a dialogue between Varaha and his consort Dharani. And Varaha declares that the Yamuna is 100 times more sacred than the Ganga in his Mathura Mandala. And Varaha informs Prithvi that a number of secret tirthas of his will arise in the vicinity of the Yamuna, and those or a person who will take a bath at all these tirthas will attain Vishnu Loka. Then there is also glorification of the Sangama of the Ganga and Yamuna. Now, the Padma Purana, Kurma Purana, Matsya Purana glorify Prayagaraja as being situated between the rivers Ganga and Yamuna, and a bath at the Sangama of these rivers confers great merit. Then the Kurma Purana declares that the Muni Pungavaha have declared that the one who will give up his life at the confluence of the Ganga and Yamuna will get their desired fruits. Then similarly, the Matsya Purana has also glorified the Sangama of Ganga and Yamuna. And even in the Ramacharita Manasa, Mata Kausalya blesses Sitaji by stating that her Saubhagya should be incessant, like the streams of the Ganga and Yamuna. That is what she says. And a number of bhaktas like Dhruva, as well as rishis like Shandilya, Durvasa, Jamadagni, are said to have attained Siddhi on the banks of the Yamuna. So this is a picture of the Sangam at Prayagraj. Then coming to the Yamuna and Bhagwan Sri Krishna, the Yamuna is said to have originated from the left side of Sri Krishna in Goloka. A great number of names of the Yamuna in the Yamuna Sahasranama associate her with Sri Krishna and the Mathura region. And the worshippers believe that the Yamuna and Sri Krishna are actually one entity, but only for the purposes of Leela, they appear in two separate forms. The Padma Purana has declared that Kalindi is an inseparable aspect of Krishna and they are one and the same. And there are numerous Pauranika references to Krishna grazing cows on the banks of the Yamuna. And even certain modern compositions, associate Krishna's Gaucharana with the Yamuna, like, in a song, in a bhajana composed by Bhakti Vinod Thakur, it is said, Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Randana Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Then similarly, the river is said to have made way for Vasudeva, who was carrying infant Krishna from Mathura to Gokula across her stream. Krishna subdued Kaliya in the Hridaya of Yamuna. Then Akrura had the vision of Sri Vishnu Krishna seated on Ananta in the waters of the Yamuna. The place where this divine sight is believed to have been witnessed by Akrura came to be known as Akrura Tirtha, and it is there between Vṛndāvana and Mathura. And this episode has been described in Vaishnava texts like the Hari Vansha and many other Puranas. So this is sculpture, a relief from Mathura, and many scholars have interpreted this particular relief, which shows Vasudeva carrying infant Krishna across the stream of the Yamuna, but there is no unison between scholars as far as the interpretation of this panel is concerned. Then Kalindi is also the name of one of the eight principal queens of Sri Krishna. He married her after marrying Rukmini, Jambavati, and Satyabhama. Now, their marriage has been described in the Bhagavata Purana. Similarly, Vallabhacharya calls the Yamuna Krishna Turya Priya. There are various interpretations which I will be addressing later. Now, one reason why she is called Krishna Turya Priya is that she was the fourth queen consort of Sri Krishna. Turya means fourth. Now, as per the Bhagavatam, Sri Krishna and Kalindi had 10 sons. Okay. And now, coming to her worship as such, or bathing in the Yamuna at Mathura is considered specially merit bestowing. This applies to rivers across our country. And Many devotees take a bath in the Yamuna at Mathura and Vrindavana on Kartika Shukla Purnima, thus completing their Kartika Masa Vrata. Now we come to the worship of the Yamuna, and the fact that our Shastras have given so much importance to a proper ritualistic worship of the Yamuna reflects, indicates, testifies her Mahatmya. So, before we come to the actual worship, let me just take a review of some of her sculptures very briefly. Images of Ganga and Yamuna appear on the Dwara Shakhas of rock cut and structural temples from the Gupta period onwards. And we find Yamuna shown astride on a kurma, and there may or may not be an attendant with her. So, one of the earliest depictions of Yamuna in the form of a young lady standing on a tortoise are from the Jogeshwari caves in Mumbai and the Dashavatara temple at Devgarh, both dating to the 6th century CE. Then I think I'll just show the sculptures. And there are Yamuna temples at Vishranti Tirtha or Vishram Ghat in Mathura. In fact, the greatest concentration of Yamuna temples is found at Vishranti Tirtha or Vishram Ghat. There is also a Yamuna temple at Keshi Ghat in Vṛndāvana. And Yamuna is also represented as one of the 64 yoginis at Hirapur in Odisha and Beda Ghat in Madhya Pradesh. So this is the Yamuna Ji temple at Keshi Ghat in Vṛndāvana, and this is one of the Yamuna temples at Vishranti Tirtha in Mathura. Now, the image of Yamuna, as per the Agni Purana, should be standing on a kurma. She should hold kumbhas in both her hands, and her complexion must be dark. Now, the kumbhas or kalashas symbolize completeness and prosperity. So, this is from Devgarh, and this is a sculpture of the Yamuna. She's standing on the tortoise. This is a door frame at the Jogeshwari caves. This is Ganga and this is Yamuna. This is a sculpture of Yamuna from Aihole dating to the 7th century CE. She is standing on a tortoise. This is a sculpture of Yamuna from Ellora. This is in the temple complex of Kailasa dated to the 8th century CE. This is Yamuna standing on a tortoise. This is from the Chausat Yogini temple at Hirapur, Odisha. And this is the icon of Yamuna from the Chausat Yogini temple at Beda Ghat. Unfortunately, the upper half is broken, but we can see her mount, the tortoise here. Now, Yamuna in Vṛndāvana is worshipped at various places, like, for example, the Govinda Kunda. Then Yamuna Arti is performed at Vishrama Ghata and Keshi Ghata. And last year, I was fortunate enough to witness the Yamuna Arti at Keshi Ghata. It's a beautiful experience. Now, earlier, Yamuna was also worshipped through Tantrika rituals known as Panchanga, where we have five aspects of Tantrika Pujana: the Patala, Paddhati, Kavacha, Stotra or Stava, and Sahasranama. This is a picture of Vishranti Tirtha or Vishram Ghata, and this is one of the important places where Yamuna Pujana is performed. These are the Tuladwaras. Devai sir referred to the Tula Dana of Krishna Devaraya. So here also Rajput rulers and others were performing their Tula Danas on the banks of the Yamuna. Now coming to the Patala of the Yamuna, it has been revealed to Mandhatru by the sage Saubhari. So he gives him the mantra Om Hrim Shrim Klim Kalindyai Devyai Namaha. And this mantra was to be chanted for 11 lakh times for the attainments of the Siddhis. Then a lotus with 16 petals has to be drawn on a simhasana, and a seat for Sri Krishna and Kalindi has to be prepared in its karnika. And the names of the 16 rivers have to be chanted in the order starting from the Ganga up to the Kakudmini, and the 16 petaled lotus has to be thus worshipped. And the worship of Vrindavana, Govardhana, Vrinda, and Tulasi also has to be performed, and a certain mantra has to be recited. This has to be followed by the Shodasha Upachara Pujana of the Yamuna. Then we have the Paddhati of the worship. So the worshipper has to maintain Brahmacharya and Mauna and perform japa silently. The worshipper has to sleep on the floor. He has to give up the six vices. He has to wake up at Brahma Muhurta, meditate on the Yamuna, and take a bath in her waters at dawn. After the Anushtana is complete, the worshipper has to go to her bank with his sons and honor 10 lakh Brahmanas with Gandha, Pushpa, clothes, ornaments, and a good Dakshina. And he has to provide an excellent meal to these Brahmanas. Then coming to the Kavacha, the Kavacha of the Yamuna was chanted by Sage Saubhari to Mandhatru. Now, the Yamuna here is called the Radni or Queen of Krishna. She is invoked to protect every part of the worshipper's body, and the Phalashruti of the Kavacha is also given at the end. The recitation of the Kavacha ultimately enables the worshipper to attain Goloka, which is mentioned as the Parama Dhama of Sri Krishna, which is even difficult for the yogis to attain. Then we have the Stava, same thing revealed by Saubhari to Mandhatru. And the Yamuna is called Martanda Kanyaka, Krishna, Krishna Rupini, and she is the one who confers Vṛndāvana Vasa. She is also called Leelavati because of her significant role in the Krishna Leela, and Leela is an integral aspect of hers. And it is said that Bhagavan Govinda Deva shines in every drop of the Yamuna. So her waters are filled with the presence of Bhagavan Shri Krishna. Then this is the Sahasranam of the Yamuna. In fact, we have less time now. Otherwise, I would have uh, elaborated on it. So we have various aspects in this Sahasranama. She is called Kalindi Yamuna. She's called Krishna Krishna Rupa. She is called the Vadhu of the Yadavas. She's called Govardhini. Then she is named after various Nayakas. She's named after the Saptapuris. She's named after the sacred rivers. So she's also called Radha. She's called Ganga Mishra. So various names of the Sahasranama of the Yamuna also bespeak of her greatness, also bespeak of her Mahatmya. Then we have the very important festival of Kartika Shukla Dvitiya, that is Yama Dvitiya, where a bath in the river Yamuna at Mathura is considered very auspicious. And brothers and sisters assemble at Vishrama Ghat here on this day for a bath in the Yamuna. And the narrative is that Yama went to the residence of his sister Yamuna on this day, and she offered him food cooked by her, and he honored her with all kinds of presents and gave her the boon that those who on this day consume the food made by their sisters and offer tarpana to the Pitrus will never ever see the door of his abode. And the Yamadvitiya also, in a way, underlines the Mahatmya of the Yamuna, and the worshippers have the faith that Yamuna will fulfill all their wishes and augment their punya and destroy their papa. Then, apart from the Pujana Vidhi which we saw, there are also Pujanas of the Yamuna conducted at Jugala Ghata in Vrindavana and Vishranti Tirtha at Mathura. I am not getting into the details. This particular photograph it was taken by me a couple of days back, and people here are performing Yamuna Pujana before embarking on the Parikrama or Pradakshina of Yamuna. As per the Varaha Purana, the Mathura Mahatmya in the Varaha Purana, on Kartika Shuddha Navami, which is also called Akshaya Navami, people perform the Parikrama of Mathura. So you come to the banks of the Yamuna at Vishranti Tirtha, perform Achamana, you pray to the goddess Yamuna to give you success in the parikrama, to so there are to eradicate any obstacles, and you start the parikrama from the Yamuna at Vishranti Tirtha and you complete the parikrama of the Yamuna at Vishranti Tirtha. You make offerings to the river at the end of the parikrama and thank her for keeping away all kinds of hindrances away during your parikrama. Then As far as the river Yamuna is concerned, she is specially sacred in the Pushti Marga. So, her Swarupa is like Krishna. She wears a huge crown on her head. She's dark complexioned. She's adorned with a lotus garland. She holds lotuses in one hand and a lotus garland in the other. She's worshipped in such a form at Mathura, Vrindavana, and Gokula. Now, Sri Vallabhacharya in his famous Yamunashtakam calls her Sakala Siddhi Hetu, and his son Goswami Vithalanathaji explains these siddhis as obtaining a body suitable to perform the seva of Sri Krishna, witnessing his leelas and to experience rasa. Then she is called Krishna Tula.
Snehaji, is
Yes,
it
sir.
coming to an end?
Sir, I'll just complete this and then I'll come to an end. Just give me 5 minutes. Oh, okay, otherwise I'll come to the conclusion. Fine, no
Yeah,
problem.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Then I'll just show some images. This is an image of Yamuna worshipped by the Pushti Margis in Mathura. This is Srinath ji and this is the Swarup of Yamuna and Sri Vallabhacharya ji. This is the Vallabh Ghat on the Yamuna. Then the ritual of Chunari Manoratha, which is performed by the Pushti Margins, where a sari or a chunari is said to be worn by the river Yamuna. Then we have Yamunashtakas. The earliest of the Yamunashtakas have been composed by Sri Adi Shankaracharya. Then Sri Rupa Goswami has composed a Yamunashtaka. Then, of course, Vallabhacharya ji has composed a wonderful Yamunashtaka. Then give me 2 minutes. I'll just speak about the Vaisnava Kumbha at Vrindavana. So there are two myths about this Vaishnava Kumbha at Vṛndāvana. One myth says that Garuda, while bringing the Amrita Kumbha, halted on a Kadamba tree on the banks of the Yamuna, and he happened to eat the fish there. So Saubhari Rishi cursed him and told him that Garuda will not be able to enter this territory, and therefore later Kali and Naga came to occupy this particular territory. Now coming to the history, it was in 1779 that the first Vaishnava Kumbha was held at Vrindavana under the leadership of Balanandaji. There were conflicts between the Shaivas and the Vaishnavas, and to safeguard the Vaishnavas, this particular Kumbha or Kumbha Purva Baitak was called, and the Ramanandi ascetic Vrajanandaji ordered his disciple Balanandaji to organize the sadhus of the Vaishnava Akhadas into a warrior army, and certain Vaishnava sadhus also approached Balanandaji. And in 1779, a meeting between the Vaishnava Sampradayas was called at Vrindavana, for which a select number of acharyas were invited, and various decisions were taken here. And here, after this, there was a meeting at Neemka Thana in Rajasthan, and here it was decided that there would be a Kumbha Purva Vaishnava Baitak at Vrindavana before the Haridvara Kumbha, and Balanandaji organized three akhadas of Naga sadhus and 52 gaddis. Now, the last Vrindavana Kumbha was held for 42 days in 2021 at Vrindavana, and acharyas and sadhus of various Vaishnava sampradayas participated in it, and people have also written eulogies for this. And here I must say that the government of the state of Uttar Pradesh took a special initiative in the organization of the Vaishnava Kumbha, and yajnas, rasalilas, katha, kirtana, parikrama were integral parts of this kumbha. Now this Vrindavana Kumbha is aimed at the growth of divine love for Radha and Krishna. In this way it is different from the other Kumbha Melas. Here, Ragatmaka Bhakti for Yugala Sarakara is important. Jnana and Vairagya are secondary. So these are some pictures which I have taken from the internet. Then to conclude, Yamuna, especially her Mahatmya, encapsulates her natural and symbolic importance. As far as Krishna and Yamuna are concerned, the personality of Krishna is in tune with the natural landscape of the Mathura region. The Yamuna Mahatmya is the perception of a natural landscape as a sacred scape. The essential femininity of the Yamuna is reflected in her Mahatmya and worship. Her elaborate worship is integral to her Mahatmya. The Yamuna is considered extremely sacred at Yamunotri, Mathura Vrindavana, and Prayagraj. And the Vaishnava Kumbha stands for the protection and preservation of Sanatana Dharma. So that's all from my side.
Sneha ji, thank you very much.